Hey, welcome to From the Baseline with Premier Basketball Reports. I am Mark Williams, Premier Basketball Global Scout, and I am joined by the Shane Laflin and the Jason Key. I almost called you Kid, and that would have been dream country there for you, Jason. Hey, we're excited to bring you another episode of From the Baseline, and we're going to talk about circuits, and we're going to wrap it up at the end with a good discussion on why we need cross-circuit events and really kind of leading into this weekend with Prime East and ultimately the Prime Finals there at the end. So, but either way, we're glad that you joined us on this episode. If you haven't subscribed, hit the red button below. Give us a like. That would be greatly appreciated. But interact with us on Twitter. We always enjoy the conversations. So, guys, this spring, well, maybe not Shane, but that's all right. The spring was a busy spring. Since COVID, we got back to the circuit stops and all the circuit stops. Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, the introduction of Select 40 that we helped bring together with Select Events and that whole crew. And so we're just going to kind of hit it and just talk about teams. And anytime we talk about circuits, typically the first one that comes off is Nike YBL. First stop in April is Boo. Which is always a historical stop. It's always great to be there at the Boo Williams complex and just be there. But let's talk some Nike teams and maybe some teams that have stuck out so far this spring to you.
Yeah, I was at Boo. I spent the better part of 2 days. I had it's like the first year I had a really good flight back to come back to Heart of Texas. A lot of times it takes my Saturday away, but I had a really good like 5:30 flight that got me back. So I was able to see a lot. And, pool play matchups are pool play. It's the beginning of the year. Sometimes they're hit or miss. I think they kind of seed it and kind of snake it, in terms of that seeding strategy from the year before. So obviously teams change, players change, et cetera. But, as we paid attention through bracket play, obviously Pro Skills went through and won. I saw a really good Pro Skills Cal Stars matchup. And you just saw a really disciplined, defensive-minded Pro Skills team that shared the basketball and ultimately won Boo, which is year in and year out. That's something to remember. That's an historic deal. Obviously, the venue, as you mentioned, the tradition of the place, and then, Jay, I know you saw some warm-ups going up to that. Speaking of like cross-circuit stuff and the ability to play, I mean, obviously in Texas, people play each other. But Jay, you saw some warm up going up to that. We saw you were there that Exposure Plus weekend, saw some potential in Pro Skills, but in discussing what I saw and what you saw, there was some improvement. I know we saw them get to play Joey a little, Inglex group at that Exposure Plus. So what did you see then in terms of maybe holes? And then what I saw, I know you and I discussed one of our long phone calls, who knows where we were driving. Kind of what did you see then? And then I'll circle back and kind of say, okay, this is where they improved.
Yeah, with Pro Skills in particular, I thought that matchup, Taylor, the head coach of the 17U team, that matchup with Joey was very beneficial for them because it showed him kind of rotation pieces, what he wanted to do, especially with his guards. And it kind of morphed. It felt like he was using Victoria Flores in particular a little bit at the 1 and the 2, and he kind of moved her over to point centric. And I think that remember her numbers were, I think she was like 3.5 to 1, 4 to 1 assist to turnovers at Boo. And then those kind of adjustments that you get early playing elite competition help prepare and get him ready for Boo. And ultimately that assisted turnover as a team was a big part in talking to Taylor, a big part in them winning Boo, just limiting live ball turnovers, that kind of thing.
And if you're controlling pace with that, along with the fact that I think from a culture standpoint, I mean, Pro Skills has always been, I don't want to say defensive minded, like the old school football mentality, which we can get something, but they are going to guard. And you saw rotation, you saw physicality. They're not afraid to get down a little bit because they believe defensively. And then, if you're not giving the other team easy points, you are controlling the controllables. and putting yourself in position to win. So I did see that. And I think a lot of people sat at Boo and saw Flores be steady at the point. And in terms of winning point guards, a lot of times those things get overlooked due to the highlight culture or whatever, but she was really steady. And then obviously Lacey Steele was really good throughout, made a big shot in that one. Jules La Mandola was good. You've got Maddie Cox coming along, getting a little bit more physical inside. You've got your 2024 big coming off the bench, who Jason
Jordan Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. It was going to escape me for a second. Just was physical enough. And then that's the other part is they played roles.
Mm-hmm.
The teams that win play roles. It's not a bad word. So, and then it's only fair to talk about. I was not there for the championship game, but there was a scoring discrepancy with the book compared to the clock. And then obviously, so Synergy doing the film, they could go back and do the numbers. There was a scoring discrepancy. They gave, from what I understand, they gave Pro Skills an extra bucket. So obviously down the end, the numbers matter. That might have changed some things late or whatever, but still an exciting game. But Philly Rise had a legitimate case for maybe this might have gone different, which kind of leads me into my next point with the EYBL with, from what I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 9 players.
Yep, 9 of the 12.
EYBL that made U17.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a team like Philly Rise affected because they'll lose a 16U player in Ume, a 17U player in Hidalgo. Yep. Cal Stars loses 3. Just during that time, it's just, this happens every couple years, and it just depends when they're being played. I know, from what I understand, a couple coaches had suggested maybe Nike not play their final in Chicago due to that, but that's ultimately what the circuit decided to do, and I'm sure there was plenty of good reasons to do that. Takeover loses Donovan. We mentioned Rise. Stars lose 3. Those are all teams that probably had a chance to win it. So Pro Skills has proven they can. They sit pretty. Cy-Fair made a good run into that bracket and then doesn't lose anybody. Takeover loses Donovan, which is a big piece, but let's not pretend Takeover is not deep.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how Ron preps for that, just because, as I'm kind of quoted as saying in articles and different things to coaches, whatever, Donovan makes plays that just other people can't make. Yeah. And so it adds a different dynamic. So in terms of the EYBL, obviously always strong. We'll be watching USA basketball stuff, but they've got a little bit of a toss-up going into, what is it? Iowa, Louisville. We'll see how they'll have a chance. And then it's back-to-back. It's a little bit of a grind. That's a tough schedule. And then into Chicago. So maybe those 2 Texas teams are set up. Exodus historically knows how to get it done and then doesn't lose anybody. So Kentucky Premier made the Final Four, but lost a big piece. It looks like Zakiya Johnson's going to go play with the West Virginia Thunder. So we actually have a lot of change going into July for the Nike group. So that'll be interesting.
And it will be. And I've always thought when they jam-packed it in that first week, that is really tough. I mean, you go split and it's Louisville, Iowa this year, but a lot of times it's been Louisville, Indy, and then you go right back to back. You get one day off and go to Chicago. I mean, that you're not always playing your best basketball because of fatigue and just exhaustion by the end of the week. And that makes it tough, but it's easier scheduling that way. Under Armour was in Birmingham in April. Any notes from the Under Armour event?
Well, obviously FBC's in the conversation as the best club in the country. That's they're the king there.
That's annual discussion.
Yeah, no doubt. And locked and loaded like they are every other year.
Right.
I do think there's some real depth there, Shane. Help me out amongst kind of the secondary teams at Under Armour.
Well, as we saw last year, you've got FBC's second team, the Supreme family, so Des coaching that group. So you had FBC that was 5-0, the Supreme family was 5-0. Nebraska Attack was 4-1. BTR was 4-1. Become One. Don't sleep on the Canadians. They were 5-0.
Yeah.
IGB was 4-1. Bay State 4-1. Blazers 4-1. Michigan Storm 4-1. FGB without Talia Scott 4-1. Example Sports 4-1.
And as he just mentioned, West Virginia Thunder added a major piece. Now they're young, but Zakiya Johnson, you add that with that group, and that's a different group.
Yeah.
I would say so. And this is an assumption. Obviously, Scott gave us the heads up when she made the decision to change. I'm assuming Zakiya Johnson's going to play on there.
Right.
17U.
Right.
But
it could
they've
be
done things differently there, and they've got a top 25 player on their 16U.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's working to build that 25 class together because now he's got
makes sense.
Alexander, Zakiya Johnson, 2 top 5s, and then a top 25 in Laney Grant. But Scott's done things traditionally with your class.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
No, which is fine. It's just
Right.
I'm assuming right now, I guess, and I should have asked him yesterday as I was prepping for this. So that's an oversight on mine because he and I went back and forth a little bit talking prime event finals. But I'm gonna assume she's playing 17U.
Gotcha.
So you're right. That adds a dynamic. I want to say they were 3-2 at the first stop, but yeah, I think the big emerging story was FGB without Talia Scott going 4-1, and then Become One being really talented and playing some good basketball, and that's the most active I've seen prosper. I wasn't there, but had a great film. I think Khalees Fisher was a big name coming out of that with Team Thrill that a lot of people talking coming out of there. Sanaya Richardson, the particular game I watched, I think she had 36, maybe 7 threes against Example.
Another one for BTR, Kaya Smith. That's a JP favorite. I love Kaya Smith. Yes, sir.
There's a stock riser. There's a
BTR group's really talented. Yeah.
IGB, new to the circuit, but not new names. Ashlyn Shades group, Layla Hull, good group. Natalie does a good job with that group. So Example, one of those teams that kind of plays during the year together with the prep school model. Right. So that's unique. And Lori 4-1. Bay State is always solid, going to play good basketball. Wasn't quite 100%. Young talent. So session 2 matchups, with some of these teams we mentioned, IGB Bay State, Michigan Storm BTR, Example versus FBC Fam, Become One versus FBC United. I want to say is day 1 that evening. I'm going in the next day, so I may beg for that to change to the next day. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. And again, we've got the emergence again of 2 FBC teams, and then like the weird thing that happened last year, which was the younger team beat the older team.
Right.
Mo was warning his older group all year long last year about that, and then so we'll see. Good matchups to come. And had a good talk with a lot of those guys. I will say there's always been a lot of enthusiasm from the Under Armour groups about the prime event opportunities.
Yep.
They're just something, and they're the new kid on the block, right? Under Armour, new, in air quotes, but like, they're like, no, we're coming to knock them off. We're coming to knock them off. Yeah. And that's always been, it's just a prevailing thing. It's not mean one thing or the other. It's just kind of prevailing.
It has been the mentality of that though, of that group over the years. And I think obviously Mo's been a big part of that.
For sure.
But it does seem to be their cultures. They look for all comers, and that's prime event obviously is the ultimate one, but throughout the year too, where they can find their fights, they're ready to.
It's a similar thought to when you set up war games when the circuits were set up a little differently to where somebody could sneak in. And I say set up differently. The schedules were similar. Geographically, things change, and that obviously changes July schedules.
Right.
So yeah, he and Sasha, I mean, obviously they're not afraid to play anybody. And then Mo's been giving me heads up on a young group that he's putting together, a young group that he's ready to play up, that he wants to bring to that 15. He said, watch out now. So we'll see what happens next. I mean, you know, they've got some young players, you know, Kelsey Andrews playing on the top team already, which is almost unbelievable, but it's not till you see her.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep.
looking forward to that. Their next run will be that 10 through 12 group, and they'll be all spread out July 6th through the 8th. But that next Under Armour stop will be that 10 through 12 in July. I'll be over there for a day of that. Looking forward to those matchups.
Yep. And they'll be in Indy. They're 10th, 11th, and 12th. Now
they'll be in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati, the 10th,
Yeah.
11th, and 12th. Oh, okay. Yeah. They moved over to Cincy. It's been in Indy the last couple of years.
Right.
Adidas has shifted some of their stops. And interesting thing, Nike and Under Armour played in April, and Adidas made a decision to play in May, to kind of be off them and kind of have their own weekend there. They're in South Carolina and stuff. And I know both of y'all made a stop through for the Adidas first spring stop. Give us some thoughts from that event.
Yeah, Adidas tries to schedule it to where the boys and girls don't go at the same time. So as the live period for the boys, they have those 2 in April.
Mm-hmm.
The second one overlaps with that April weekend that the girls have. Right. And corporate Adidas doesn't like to do them at the same time in different places. What you will see is a little bit of overlap in July. So the guys will be finishing, the girls will come in. It's a really unique facility in Rock Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Actually has a championship arena, which is going to be really cool.
Nice.
This Rock Hill area has built up this new facility, and they're building around it with the idea that Adidas, they had a press conference there after the May period, that they're going to kind of build around that home of Adidas championships. And you should see some of the stuff that's going on, retail, mid-rises, things like that, restaurants. It's a cool deal, but the venue, I'm not sure I've been in a better multi-court venue in the country. They've got I think 8 courts, if I'm not mistaken, and then this championship arena.
Yeah.
So they've got all that set up, but the first stop, South Carolina, was, it was good. Jay came in. Jay, you ran to Atlantic City?
Yep.
Saw majority of Friday.
Yep.
Came in Saturday to Adidas. I was semi-familiar because I had seen some of the teams. What was your first impression just walking in the door there, and then who you saw, jump out at you from the jump?
Yeah, obviously Team Lex with Joey. I would say they're probably the team to beat. Loaded, they've been together for what, 4 years now, 3-4 years, the core of that team. And so they're a little bit of a machine in the way that they execute. I think San Antonio Finest, talking about, as we mentioned with West Virginia Thunder, there's been some movement and additions there. And so he's added a couple of pieces. Ray's added a couple of pieces. And they're really solid. Ray has a way of improving throughout the summer and kind of playing their best basketball in July. That's been something that Finest has done the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I'd tell you the most intriguing team for me to watch is the Northwest Greyhounds.
Mm-hmm.
I love Malia Samuels. One of the more, I think on the national level, one of the more underrated guards. She just does everything. Set with Jamie Carey, who I have a lot of respect for over at UTSA, and first time for her to see Malia Samuels as she was watching them play Jason Terry's group, and just fell in love with everything she does other than scoring. And she can really score, but all the other things, right? So anyway, and then of course the 26, Olivia Edwards, just unbelievable, God-given talent.
Man.
I mean, huge hands, and the coordination's coming, and shooting threes now, and physical rebounder. She's just, her ceiling's off the charts.
We locked in. We were all in Phoenix last year for Prime Event West in early June, and we're watching this, outstanding athlete get up and down.
Yeah.
And, non-viewing events, sometimes your roster information can be hit or miss.
Right.
But we're looking at our own, but people give them to us. It's not as if we vet these things and we're questioning whether it's accurate or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because you're watching in warmups her try to dunk and her team go nuts, and you're like, okay, where was this player being hidden? And then no, confirmation says 2026.
Yeah.
And you're seeing just someone who has a nose for it, wants to go stick her nose in things, but maybe a little unorthodox. You grow, you're trying.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward about a year, and she's come out of her, which happens, right? You're a young player. She's come out of a shell a little bit. She's showing some emotion, showing some personality,
Right.
shooting the three.
Yeah.
I think she led the league in blocks, up there in rebounds,
Right.
running the rim, finishing, handling it in the open court. So it's just the improvement that you like to see.
Yeah.
And just, you got to kind of let them do what they do. And what I liked about the Greyhounds, what's that, Mark?
You just gotta let them grow into it. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
she was stinking 7th grader.
Yeah. And it's just fun. It's just kind of fun to watch. What I really liked is that she looked to really be comfortable showing some personality and like some passion in terms of like she's having joy playing the game.
Mhm.
Yeah. And young players still, with all the older players, sometimes they take a back seat or whatever. The talent is there, but they take a back seat in terms of the social interaction or whatever. It was just kind of cool. That was cool. But what I like, they played a couple good ones. And I forget who it was, but they had to come back. And so they've got a grit to them, Jay, like you were saying with Malia Samuels. They've got a grit to them that just they just keep coming at you. So they're not out of any game. And there was a 2023, maybe a little bit less of a name, in terms of those other two comparatively, but Malaya, I don't want to, LeSueur, just wiry and made defensive plays, finished things. Hansen came through a day, and he's from that area, obviously. So he was very familiar. As soon as I started saying, hey, they got a 23 on the Greyhounds, does this, he's like, oh yeah, definitely know who you're talking about. That's what she does. Made a difference for them. In one of their comebacks, and I just, forgive me, I guess I could look up the schedule. It might have been Mass Rivals, but again, I'll look it up. But I was, the venue, it's got an upper tier, and I was standing above,
right,
just watching her terrorize them in the comeback, passing lane, layup, passing lane, dime, half court, making something that didn't make sense, to the eye. So they were particularly fun. They compete. They're relatively young, but they compete. In terms of the circuit, I say Team Lex is the team to beat. SA Finest, Mass Rivals, Lady Jets, Hardwood, Greyhounds, NWBA's right there, Elevate's right there. Castle had a nice debut. Trey Young is balanced and well coached.
Yeah.
I think the challenge for Joey's group is they ran through last year like a little chip on their shoulder. They're the young ones trying to prove. Do they get bored with winning, or do they do things to a standard of excellence? Because they have lulls. And sometimes that's due to the competition. Sometimes that's due to them being their own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Finest is deep. Finest is athletic. Finest has got a cornerstone player and Sammy Wagner that's been there forever. And then an experienced point guard in LA Sneed in terms of the Adidas experience and winning last year. And then they've got some new pieces. Vivian Uwachukwu, Ryan Forrester, Jade Clack is a huge addition. But they're different than they were last year. They're not as big at the playmaking guard positions in terms of the Ashlyn Jacksons and the Carly Wenzels and Christine Uwala. It's kind of hard to, replace that presence inside. So they've got some work and a different style.
Speaking of cross matchups, and I don't want to over Texas the Adidas League, but the Lady Jets at our Exposure Plus event gave Cy-Fair all they wanted. That thing came all the way down to the end. Reagan Jackson, the lead point guard, obviously made it deep at USA trials, made it to the final 16. And Jason Terry is as good an in-game adjuster as there is on any of the summer circuits. Like, he is elite good at adjusting and getting, especially offensively, getting shots against whatever defense he's facing. Obviously with the NBA experience. So the Lady Jets in that way are very dangerous for anybody. They're that, you know, in the NCAA comparison, they're the mid-major you do not want to draw. Because they're very dangerous.
And then again, in the interest of like the full picture there, and talking about these other teams and other circuits that changed players, lost players, gained players, they lost one.
Yeah.
So they had a change. So that'll be interesting. Now, they'll still play gritty, but it does.
Yeah,
you know,
the talent matters. For sure.
It changes your scoring adaptability. So, but Jet gets them right, like you said. He's like so enthusiastic. People still to this day are like, wait, he's more than just the name. He's more than just a budget. And I'm like, man, this dude's in the gym every weekend. And like, I texted him yesterday. It's like, yes, I want that spot. Yes, we're bringing this. Yes, it's just like, man, the dude's hungry all the time. He just love basketball. Like,
absolutely
be mad at that, you know?
And the cool thing is, if you watch coach the G League or whatever pro team he's with at that point, he coaches with the same intensity and the same level.
Yeah.
With the girls. I mean, there is no letdown. Like, when you get Jet, you get Jet. And if you're going to play for him, whether you're a professional or not, you're going to get the same Jet. He does a heck of a job with his teams and always has. So, hey, this to wrap up kind of the circuits, we introduced a new circuit this year, Select 40, and really it was just a chance to gather independents and teams and get them all together, let the best independents play each other, let them some competition and providing some big events for them. And this fall we did a split with Dallas and up in the Midwest as well and stuff. And so what are some notes from the Select 40?
Very good. I think the league would, and I only saw the Dallas half, not even getting to see the other half yet. Live is deeper than I even anticipated going into this thing as we drew teams. Very good basketball, and I think just allowing all these different styles of basketball. I mean, it's kind of like the shoe circuits, but all these other independents, their shot and one place for them all to come together is I mean, it's tremendous. Again, I couldn't have been more happy from our execution standpoint with that first half. It was unbelievable. As far as teams, there's a lot of good teams. It's thick. Northwest Select, obviously with the number 125 in the country in Jazz Davis, but they are really good. They execute. They got a real shot to win.
Something about these independents, right? That, and it's not a knock on any of this stuff, but we know the shoe circuits, their focuses tend to be talent procurement driven, right? Because there's that draw. So I don't want to say easy, hard, but like it's a little bit easier for them to collect talent. And then sometimes it's a little spread out. The culture of these independents tends to be a little bit more along the systematic line, right? To where they've been together, maybe a little bit more of a core together longer.
Yep.
And so you've got, these very dedicated coaches and systems, and then people buy into the system because there's a reason they've chosen the independent route versus probably an option of something else. They seem to be more inclined to buy into maybe a culture and a system. The Sports City U deal, the Northwest Select, New Heights, those kids have been together forever. New Jersey Sparks that just got bumped off a circuit.
Vegas Bulldogs.
That's the next one I was going to, that's Centennial. You're going to guard, you're going to share, you're going to get your ass is going to get coached off. Period. So, Wisconsin Lakers, they know how they play. There's a culture. They fill roles. So it's a fun style. And I'm not here to compare talent across the board. The shoe circuits are talented. We know the numbers. We just because our media group put some stuff together. I mean, there's 25 top 100 or whatever there are currently ranked players, whether it's 160 or 25 in the classes. in the league, which is excellent. And you know, you had the Sports City U's, New Heights was 4-0, Northwest Select 4-0, New Jersey Sparks, Jason Kidd Select, Nebraska Supreme was 4-0, Wisconsin Lakers 4-0, Bulldogs 4-0, Michigan Mystics 4-0, with some teams clamoring with that second stop, which that's where there'll be an Indy at Pacer, Mark, that 10 through 12, and then they'll come together in Cincinnati for the championships on the back end. You know, I saw Wisconsin Lakers in Prime Event Midwest. I had seen clips and heard things about them before, but they've got some shooters. There was a player that really stood out to me, Tegan Mulaney. Again, I don't want to butcher names, but 2024 forward, super skilled. McKenna Christian, Jay, you had seen her someplace before. Absolute shooter.
Yep.
They're relatively young. Vegas Bulldogs is Centennial High School out of Vegas. Like, no secrets there. Kanaya Boyd's one of the best on-ball defenders in the country. And then Montea Dew, we've seen it. It's growing. Sometimes had its up and downs, but man,
she's just getting better.
Heart of Texas said, nah, I want this. And that was awesome. So they're only going to continue to get better. They're just working now. They're just getting better with their team right now. So Mac Irvin, missing Taj Bloom, but loaded in the young guard spot. AJ Guyton daughter is one of those steady stock risers. She's so smooth. I think she's going to have a big July. So, you know, the idea was there was a lot of these independent teams spread out throughout July or the eval periods.
Right.
That never knew who they were going to get to play.
Yeah.
And so you get a pool play that's okay, and then maybe get a bracket game. And so they've been pushing for a couple of years for someone to do this. And quite frankly, I'm surprised it hadn't been done already. But there was just something about the collection of them and the timing, and some hard work and some connection, right? Sure. That brought this group together. I think this is going to be a special thing going forward, especially with the eval periods changing next year. So they've got a stage, they've got an identity, and they've done a great job with it. So I'm excited for that July period for them as they go represent at different events too, because they've been calling us saying, okay, in the non-select 40 weekends, like, who should we go hunt? Because now we've had the opportunity to actually play people multiple games in an event that are really strong. So where do we go hunt these games in the non-select 40 spots, you know? So that's exciting.
Absolutely. Well, and April's I say April, the spring with the May period, but spring is always a great time. We jump in, get to see everybody first. But by the time we get to July, everybody's had multiple games, multiple practices, players shift. And July is really where you get to see a lot of good basketball. And you see all these circuits have multiple stops, whether they're both in the early period like Nike or kind of everybody else. They do one stop in the early, one in the late. We're really looking forward to July and getting to see these teams play again and the improvements and the growth that players are making. And that's what it's all about. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about, you know, we talked about the circuits and how everybody's kind of playing separate, and talks about Select 40 wanting to hunt some teams, go play some tops. Well, let's talk a little bit of Prime and what that means and how that provides that opportunity. So we'll be right back right after this. Hey, welcome back to From the Baseline. Mark Williams, Shane Laflin, Jason Key. We appreciate you tuning in. We talk circuits in spring, and Nike and Under Armour, Adidas, and Select 40. But this weekend, we probably have arguably the best non-viewing period lead up to July event going on this weekend, and Prime Event East. There in Pennsylvania. And man, we were just looking at the potential 17U bracket, and it's loaded. I mean, there's Under Armour, Nike, Adidas, Select 40 teams, other independents there. And it is from go, every game is going to be tough in that top 17U bracket. But what are some things you're looking forward to seeing this weekend there, Jason?
First and foremost, I love bracket play, right? I mean, from the jump, just the format of bracket play and it's cutthroat from the beginning, and you still play. If you don't win, we get it, but ultimately you're trying to win. You're trying to win the championship and prove that you're the best team, one of the best teams in the country. So I love that from the jump. I love all the different, as we talked about, cross matchups of shoes and styles and all that. From, you know, you got your Paldo twins to the takeovers, well, you know, a loaded takeover roster, obviously, to your Bay State Jags who are going to execute, to Joey, who obviously we bring up, to, you know, Essence coming through, you know, giving us some South Florida flavor. And I'm really interested to see the Essence group, who I'll see in Nike in July, but I haven't seen live as of yet. So it's gives me the ability to put eyes on clubs I haven't got to see live yet, only seen on film, and on it goes. And then you got, you know, Long Island Renegades that say there's a kid that I fell in love with, Olivia Jones. You know, how does she do against upper competition? I'm not sure if she's playing 16U or 17U, but either way, you know, those clubs getting the opportunity, which is the whole point of this, to play some of the shoe sponsor teams and seeing where they're at with that. So just the depth of it, the matchup piece of it, I'm very excited. I think this is the best Prime Meets we've had yet, and we've had some really good ones. So that's saying a lot, you know. So hopefully it lives up to the billing. But on paper, this is as good as it gets all year long.
Absolutely. And Shane, you know, the prime events was your idea, right? You kind of came up and, hey, cross circuits, get everybody matched up. And, you know, we host events in Texas and the Midwest and the Southeast and the West Coast. But it seems like the East, it's really the East, but the Northeast up there has really grabbed a hold of it. And it was good the first year. It was great the second year. This one, the field looks loaded to be even better this year. What do you think has been the key to the growth, primarily there up in the East, for this event?
You know, so many times with events and viewing, non-viewing, it has to, like, a few things have to align: the geography, the timing. The different regions have different vibes about how they do things. Like the Midwest, you know, some of the Midwest still plays like literal AAU. So like that's like a cultural thing, that 15Us play with 15, 16s play with 16, 17s play with 17s. And then there are times they're dedicated to actually doing that. So I just use that as an example of the different regions have different times in which things align and make things possible. And we've had really good prime regionals, but the East has been the deepest and the strongest in terms of numbers, talent, and the matchup. So, you know, the overarching idea is, like, especially, and this is an appropriate show to do this, or chat or whatever podcast. You know, we do a few things. We run events. We're responsible for doing some rankings. It gives us a responsibility, a platform. When we first started this and we decided we were going to kind of go after this, you know, this is not an original idea. Good teams playing good teams is not an original idea. The execution is the separator. And then being able to say, okay, we're going to take some resources. It's a little, anytime you invest in something, it's a little bit of a gamble. And we're going to say, okay, we'd like to have this prime event final. We need to get these teams together to play each other. And our first prime event final is very, very good. And then just said, okay, people like that vibe. Not everybody can play at that time or do whatever. We should go to these different regionals because we have a responsibility to see some things in depth in other regions. And we want these teams to play each other. And sometimes it's hard to get people to do that if it's not what they consider a neutral playing field, because of the way people go after their players or start chirping or whatever. It's like, look, all that aside, you're not coming to so-and-so's event to play the home team. Just come to an event. Let's play against each other. Because one thing we wanted to do is say, okay, rankings and opinions and whatever is always going to be subjective. We would like an objective opportunity to watch these players play, and they want to play against each other. It's just sometimes competitive chippy, silly, whatever you want to call it, timing, it gets in the way. So anyway, the point is, as Jason was saying, these different teams come to play each other. And the other thing that we do is we know them enough to where we can seed them, bracket them, and say what would be most advantageous in terms of what they're looking for, in terms of their exposure, their competition, and then what would build a bracket well. And I'm just not sure any other group can do that. And I'll acknowledge we've got a good conglomerate. It's not just us.
Right.
With Select, with the shoe circuits, with the relationships we've built, we're able to do that. So I just think East, the timing works. They want to warm up for July.
Right.
The East has got this different, edgy, chippy competitiveness about it. And I think they were waiting for like I said, that neutral environment that they felt like they could get together and play without, what they explained to me previously was maybe a little bit more politically driven or agenda driven or grudge driven territorial crap up there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then Matt and his Select group have done a great job building relationships with everybody across the board. And then again, the weekend just seems to work. And not to be overlooked, it's a Father's Day weekend. It takes commitment on our end, their end, anybody who's got families. But that heat is just hard to back down from. And Mark, you mentioned, or Jason, you mentioned Carolina Flames are coming up. Team Curry is coming up. Essence is coming up. East Carolina, or East Coast United out of Florida is coming up. Team Lex is coming up. So then we've got the Takeovers Exodus, the Boo is coming up. New Jersey Gems, Philly Rise, Mass Rivals, Bay State, the regional, right? Drivable, but it's drawn some others too. So this is kind of gone. It's a regional thing. It's a non-viewing thing. It's got some national cross matchup, regional cross matchup. It's a ton of shoe and independent and truly independent cross matchups. This is what we want to do. It's that little bit of that AAU vibe from back in the day. The best come play. Yep. And so we're always working to where it's the best way to do that. And we've got that. There's 43 top 100 players playing in this event
across all circuits, independents, everything.
Yeah.
Right? So no angle being played with that.
Pretty loaded. So we just want to see. I mean, last year we saw NEPA Elite, maybe not a household name,
right?
Make a run through. We saw Sierra Toomey and her group just take on all comers. And I look forward to seeing who that might be this year.
Speaking of NEPA, I can't wait to see Keomi McMillan. Man, I can't wait. She is a show.
It's silly how that ball is an extension of her. But yeah, same deal. And just from a player growth standpoint, it's entertaining. Yep. And then from a player growth standpoint too.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now this event's loaded. And all the other regions, man, when you start making your calendar next year, look at the Prime event. I mean, we're there to provide you an atmosphere, an environment, a platform to go head to head, no agendas, it's roll it out. Let's see what you got. And really just to try to create a competitive environment there in your region. But all those are built up to August and the Prime event final. And now that's an invitation only event. You got to be invited. And really the idea there is to bring the best of the best from the country all into Mansfield, Texas, there at the field house and let them square off. And we've had good finals. This one's building up to be really good finals, even better, probably the best due to some scheduling stuff, really with USA Basketball affecting the Nikes. And they're really wanting an opportunity to play against the best at the end of the summer. And how's that shaping up for this year?
I mean, the interest is already really high. I've specifically started talking to people about like locked in logistics, all those things. The better part of the last couple of weeks, just as we, you have an idea who's going to be good, but you want it to be based on how they played. Right. So really, and then really just trying to, it's a good reason to have good check-in conversations in terms of the club coaches and what's going on going into July, talking across from college coaches to this, to that. So it's a good kind of conversation starter, and then kind of helping them again understand as they are getting to know us a little bit better because of the platforms and things, our philosophy, and then how we're investing in trying to put them in positions to earn some things. So I had a good conversation like yesterday with an independent club out of Memphis who's kind of cutting their teeth, that has some talent, that is familiar, but didn't really, knew about it, but didn't really know the vibe, and their experience with other operators or whatever was kind of like, oh, when you regionalize stuff, it's kind of a money grab. You're never going to be there to watch. And I'm like, no, we're at every single one of these without question. And you will know who's where, because we put out our schedule. So just a good reason to have those conversations. But yeah, the final, Become One, Example Sports, Team Lex, Mac Irvin, BTR, Indiana Elite, Jason Kidd, Sports City, Pro Skills, Mavs Elite, Lady Jets, New Heights, FGB, HG Elite, Player First, Lady Strong. I mentioned Example Sports. Who else kind of came on? Elevate Elite with the young crew. The Clippers 15U group wants to come through. So we've got, 17, 16, and 15 brackets, 2 17 brackets, like an A and a B, just transparency. 2 16s, A and a B, transparency, and then 1 15. We limit it to that so games can be spaced out, and so people can come in, get their games in Saturday, Sunday, and then get out Sunday. So they can come in Friday. We've got practice times available on Friday. They can prep, they can scout, they can do some different things through the live streaming abilities and all that. And then waiting on some confirmations, like the New Heights. Started talking with Cal Stars about their thing. A couple of the Nike teams saying, okay, let me see how we recover from maybe missing our players. So, all of those things. FBC claims the crown, wants to keep the crown all the time, coming through. And like I said, Mo's building up that young crew. So I'm just trying to check my notes because I was on the phone quite a bit yesterday working through this stuff. So, yeah, and then don't want to jump the gun on too many, but Banshees, their 16U group, which is super talented. I think 3 top 25, 25s, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
So yeah, and then just working through some options with some of the Adidas teams as they build into this as well. So don't want to give away too much or put people's business in the street, but I feel really good about it, and building up through this weekend always helps. And we always have a great weekend because it's like game after game after game. We got it in one spot, we watch them all, and then again, the matchups are appropriate and applicable to discerning, some different things that we need to do. And then, of course, regardless of all that, which is secondary, it's competitive as hell. And that brings out the best, or allows people to measure appropriately, so then they can continue to develop, or they can see players that they don't get to see. So that's the focus. That's about as simple as it gets. But we build it into something because we like to market it and do all that. But that's what it's about. It's about competing, and we have a great time with it. And it's good fellowship and camaraderie amongst the coaches. We always have good gatherings in the evenings.
Absolutely.
Whether it's evaluation groups or McDonald's voters, or the guys that have been in for a while is the reason I mentioned that, to club coaches, to making different connections, to introductions. That's always been a really fun part about the Prime event. Everywhere we go. And then it's kind of like the weekends. I think a picture got out to everybody when, like, the Wooten weekend, when we had all the people that they think aren't friends sitting at the same table, discussing, talking, competitively talking sometimes, which is fun for me, of course. But people not believing that everybody can kind of sit in that same room, and they definitely can. It's fun.
Well, and it's always a great weekend. It's all held at Fieldhouse Mansfield, so it's all on those A courts. Nobody has to go to any other facility. It's all wood courts, and it's a fantastic facility. And it's a great weekend. This weekend's going to be a great weekend. There's talent all up and down the board. Really looking forward to the matchups and seeing who comes out of there. And July will be here before we know it. We're not far away, so looking forward to watching those teams play. And so, big weekend. And so we'll get to see that. Hey, anybody who is telling you stuff about Premier or whatever, hey, reach out. This is who we are. Like, we want the best for women's basketball, and we're trying to create great places, great matchups, camaraderie against it with everybody, and really just trying to grow the game. So anybody's telling you different, hey, reach out. We'll tell you who we are, and you'll get to know who it is pretty quickly. So, hey, from a global front, under 18s America started this week. Yesterday was actually the first day. PBR global subscribers and international subscribers got rosters and players to know. But a good first day yesterday. Arguably USA, I know they've had some COVID and some kids having to sit out due to COVID, and it's shortened their bench and their roster, but they looked impressive yesterday. Canada won. It's interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting who wins 3 and 4, because the top 4 qualify for under 19s next summer. And so we got Argentina and Brazil, which was a grudge match from under 18 South America championships, and they played yesterday. But really, Colombia and Puerto Rico, between those 4, who's going to pick the last 2 spots. So you can check the games out on YouTube at FIBA's channel, and there will be 4 games again today. Then they'll take a rest. Oh, actually, they'll play Wednesday, then they'll take a rest day Thursday, then bracket play. So it'll be interesting. So if you got some time, want to watch some international basketball, check it out there on YouTube. So, well, another great episode. Talk circuits, talks prime event, a little bit of global basketball there at the end. But for Shane Laflin, Jason Key, I'm Mark Williams, and we're coming to you from the baseline.